Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee. Governor, before we move off of the ESA program and charters, there's been some talk about the charter bills that there's a lot of people concerned that an appointed board, not an elected local officials like with school boards, making the decisions about create these charter schools. Would you be okay about letting local governments make that decision and keep the appeals process on the state level?
That's the way it will work. These will go to the LEA first, and the new authorizing board will be an appeals board process only.
Only, okay. And also, there's been a lot of concerns in the education savings accounts about the problems with fraud. And then some of the states you mentioned that have been very effective have also had problems with fraud and there have been audits. Do you think you're going to have strong enough things to take care of that?
I do. Part of the things about looking at what other states are doing is you learn where they made mistakes, and then you put in place the safeguards to keep the challenges that they had from happening in your state. We have we have an education savings account program already in the state for children with disabilities. It's very small, but it's allowed us to operate in a way that puts in place a structure that we can scale up. So we're certain that we can limit the amount of fraud in this program.
You may soon have on your desk two different bills regarding abortion, one that would basically ban abortion after a heartbeat is detected. That's much sooner than is allowed under Roe v. Wade right now. In fact, several bills that have passed in other states have been struck down in the courts. Is that a concern for you if it comes to you, if that particular bill comes to you to be signed?
You know, my greatest concern is that we protect the rights of the unborn. That's my greatest concern, and that's why I have said that I would support legislation that reduces the number of abortions in this state, and I would do that. Even
if that means losing in court and actually funding Planned Parenthood and others because you have to pay their legal fees?
I think that if we construct the bills in a way that they can be argued in court, that's what we want to do. We want to create a bill that is the best bill it can be. And there are some things worth fighting for, and for me, life is one of those things.
Do you see this as a bill that ultimately could go to the Supreme Court and help them begin to erode, if not overturn Roe v. Wade?
I think that if you have 4 or 5 states, I think there's a cultural shift in this country. I think that we are seeing multiple states passing these heartbeat bills, and I think when those come together, we have an opportunity.
What about the other bill that's passing through the legislature that I think has the support of the Lieutenant Governor in particular? He would prefer to wait till Roe v. Wade is outlawed and then basically outlaw abortion in Tennessee, except for some rare instances where the life of the mother might be in charge. Would you be comfortable with that bill if you had to sign that one instead?
I think that bill also would ultimately reduce the number of abortions here, so I would be in support of that bill.
You have a couple of bills. You've spent quite a bit of time in your State of the State talking about criminal justice reform. You're particularly one to restore voting rights to felons, is making pretty good progress to come to your desk probably fairly soon, and also one that would get some of the fees that they have to pay to get their records cleared. What has made this bill this whole issue so important that not only the state legislature is acting about it, but Congress is acting about it? Congress acts on very few things on any kind of bipartisan basis. This is one they did.
You know, I think people are recognizing, and I certainly have recognized, again, for me, it started way back in working with nonprofits and mentoring men that were coming out of prison and reentering. And I began to watch the reentry process over and over again in men's lives. Interested in that process for those individuals, but really more interested in what impact it has on Tennessee in general. The truth is that 95% of people that are incarcerated are going to get out, and they're going to re-enter in our communities. And whenever we have a successful re-entry, then it's one less victim.
But in all these years, lawmakers have said, well, we have to be tough on crime. And that's how I'm going to get beat. If I'm not tough on crime, I'm going to get beat in my primary, I'm going to get beat for re-election.
I think what we're seeing is that people are increasingly becoming aware that being tough on crime is important. For violent offenders, for drug traffickers, for those that are a menace to society, we need to be swift and severe and tough on crime. I've even proposed strengthening penalties for drug traffickers of fentanyl in this state. So we need to be tough on crime, but we also need to be smart, recognizing that we pay $28,000 a year to incarcerate someone. If we can make their reentry more successful and they don't go back to prison, we eliminate victims and we eliminate that cost. That's a broadening awareness that it just makes sense. Because for all the tough on crime without being smart on crime initiatives that we had, our violent crime rate has just continued to tick up.
You see more also involved with education in this regard. In a lot of cases, those who come into the prison system did not complete or have much education when they come in. You're spending more money in that area, and you're seeing a positive response to that from lawmakers.
40% improvement in a person's reentry process and success if they have some level of education attainment, certificate attainment before they get out. This is about practical, common sense, saving money, reducing victims, and when the data proves and shows that that's what's happening, then lawmakers agree with it, because it's really, we're saving taxpayer money, we're creating safer neighborhoods, we're reducing crime at the same time with these new initiatives, and that makes sense to everybody.
Tennessee Governor Bill Lee is our guest on Inside Politics. We're happy to have him with us. We'll continue our conversation with him after this break.